Hello. I'm subscribed to a YouTube channel by the name of History Debunked. And he usually puts out a couple of videos a day on varying topics which to him are of interest. And today he put out a video about the resurgence of the rhythm method as a method of contraception. If you don't know what that is, it's basically going by the woman's natural biological cycle and trying to avoid pregnancy by only having sex during the time that the woman is not ovulating. And this method is notoriously unreliable and generally only popular with people who are, for example, practicing Catholics, who are forbidden by their religion from using condoms, etc. And then they have big families. That's the kind of topic of this short video from this man, Simon Kemp, at History Debunked. And this put me in mind of a topic of personal interest, because I'm interested in kind of natural medicine, herbal medicine, traditional remedies, this kind of thing. And many years ago now, maybe when I was, actually I could say it was about 20 years ago, pretty much exactly, that I was introduced to this plant, it's a tree called neem. And so the first inkling I got of it was that I was living in communal circumstances, and there were nits going around, and they're infecting everyone's head. And I had these dreadlocks that were kind of waist length, and I didn't want to get nits. And this one German dude had gifted me a tiny amount of this neem oil in a little wrap that he'd made from a cigarette packet from the foil outside. He wrapped up this tiny, it was like a gram or a half a gram of neem oil, which is available. You can buy neem oil in large quantities for not that much money, but it's recommendable to get. If you're going to use it topically, you don't want the kind of industrial stuff that may have been extracted under heat or with chemical processes. Then you want, a virgin cold-pressed neem oil. And so the neem tree has a very powerful defense against all kinds of infection. It produces these substances throughout the entirety of the plant. So it's in the bark, it's in the leaves, it's in the fruit. I don't know if it's in the wood, actually, presumably in the wood as well to a degree. But I think that it's more concentrated in the bark and the leaf and the fruit. And so these substances that the tree produces interrupt the natural breeding cycle of all biological organisms. So it's basically, to anything sub-insect level, it's basically toxic. So if it's a bacteria or a mold kind of thing, then it just kills it. And if it's, say, an insect level up, then it's not actually toxic to it, but what it will do is cause it to become sterile. And so it is a deterrent, because insects, say, for example, like nits, have a notion of what's a good environment for them or not. And so empirically, let's say 20 years ago, with my big old dreadlocks, I tested this in this communal circumstance, living with tens of people around, kids and everything, and everyone was getting the lice, and me with my big old dreadlocks, I didn't get the lice because I took this neem oil, presumably because I took the neem oil and put it in my hair, although it could just be, other circumstances. And this is the story because I'm not going to go into all of my experiences over the years here with the neem plant, of which I've had many. And it does seem to me to be a very powerful medicine. But I want to limit myself largely to what I've received knowledge about the plant. So this is according to what I've read in scientific literature and so forth, online in books that I purchased and whatever. So we have substances in this plant that will interrupt the biological life cycle, the reproductive cycle, I should say, of any thing from any life form of the order insect up. So that does include, of course, amphibians, mammals, and what have you. And this tree originates in India, Southeast Asia, and so forth, but it has been introduced now to Africa and grows very successfully. It'll tolerate pretty extreme conditions. It can do without, I think it can do in a fairly dry soil, a fairly poor soil. It won't grow in the northern climates. Frost will kill it. But it will grow in a lot of areas. South America now, they grow it. And they use the sticks as a toothbrush, for example. Anywhere where it grows, people know this now in Africa, that you can pull a stick off this tree and it makes the best toothbrush. And of course, lots of, you can imagine, if it's antibacterial, antifungal, it's an insect deterrent. It's insecticidal, as in it will interrupt the life, it'll stop this generation from reproducing. So if you have a nit infestation, the eggs that are already there will hatch, but if you keep adding neem, then that generation will be sterile and they won't be able to produce any more eggs. And this is non-toxic. It's not like the nit treatments also that aren't deterrent. You have the infestation, so then you wash your hair with something that is extremely toxic, and some of that you're going to absorb through your skin and what have you. And that kills everything. But then you wash out the remnants and you go out and tomorrow you can get another infestation. Whereas if you keep putting the neem in your hair, you'll always have control of the situation. So this is as a deterrent for this kind of thing. Now, Ayurveda in India, their ancient science of life and medicine and all kinds of things, philosophy, I suppose, they have acclaimed that they have, I haven't seen them, but they say in Ayurveda, we have thousands of years of literature going back. I can't remember whether the earliest mention maybe 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, but they have texts, I think, that go back 5,000 years. And so that's a very long scientific tradition, where you can observe things over generations. Not nowadays where we bring out new drugs. Every year we bring out new drugs. And then later we find out they're no good, we phase them out, we bring out new ones. But this is where people belonging to this tradition have been able to study and observe the effect over lifetimes, generations. And so they identified this tree, neem, as nature's medicine cabinet. All kinds of healing, all kinds of ailments, everything you can imagine pretty much. Internal, external, use it on the land, use it on your animals. And there is another use for this, which is as a contraceptive, because it interrupts the reproductive cycle. And how it presumably could do this with a mammal is that it causes an autoimmune response that will cause the fertilized female to reject, her system will reject the egg, which is something that is an option that is always available, that her system can, for whatever reason, and there may be very good reasons for this, say this pregnancy, this new fertilized egg is not viable, terminate. In fact, I've even read, this is slightly tangential because this is from some channeled material regarding which I'm very skeptical, about the origins of, when people sit down and channel material. Maybe it's real they're channeling, but I don't know what they're channeling from and whether it's here to tell me the truth or deceive me or what have you. But I read in one of these books, I believe it was Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak, a very interesting concept that humanity is being at large maintained in a divided state. We're constantly being turned against each other. This is, part of the order of how things perhaps have always been, and if they haven't always been that way, they've been that way in living memory. Right? We're all under these two-party systems. It's Pepsi or Coca-Cola, you Blur or Oasis, the list goes on. And so these hot topics that you can divide people over, gun ownership or anything that's going, is useful to the power that wishes to maintain humans in strife and ignorance. And the topic of abortion is an excellent one. Contraception, abortion, get people fighting over that. And so what this book was suggesting is that it is possible for a woman, through force of will alone, to decide for herself whether or not she will carry a pregnancy to term. And in fact, this is constantly happening through unconscious processes, because there are women who consciously may wish to get pregnant, but unconsciously they have a stronger desire to not get pregnant. And so their body will terminate. And there may be women who consciously very much wish not to get pregnant, but their body says, well, I'm ready. So there has to be a unity of body and mind, and will and spirit and so forth. And when a woman is resolved, she can decide for herself, mind, body, because body follows mind. This is at least according to traditional Eastern wisdom, right? Now, modern science may have different takes on the matter, and I'm not, picking a side, but I'm just saying that this was an interesting notion to me. And it also lines up slightly with this argument about the neem. How does it function as a contraceptive? Because there's an autoimmune process, and autoimmune processes can be triggered by the use of substances, or by the or by emotional states. For example, stress can cause a woman to have a miscarriage. So, we have allegedly thousands of years of documented literature describing how this plant can be used as a very effective contraceptive. It can be used internally, externally, so it can be used, so to speak, as a spermicidal lubricant. It can be used post-coitus, within a reasonable time frame afterwards. The woman can apply the neem internally, or both men and women can take the neem internally, and over some time you have to take capsules, for example, of powdered neem leaf, and after you've been taking that for some time, one has been taking that for some time, one will be rendered temporarily sterile. And when one leaves off taking the capsules or the what have you, after I think it's something like a month, fertility will return. And there are no hormonal side effects. There are no special side effects whatsoever to taking this, but it is a beneficial tonic herb. So only good, right? And of all the options that are available for contraceptive, also if used topically as a spermicidal lubricant, this will also obviously inhibit the transmission of any kind of disease that is bacterial, fungal, possibly viral, but viruses is a whole nother issue, a whole nother hot topic. What is a virus and so forth? I'm not authorizing myself here right now to speak on that. So that was really pretty much what I wanted to say here. Neem. Neem. Azadirachta Azaractida indica, I believe is the scientific name. And I'm going to title this video Natural Birth Control. I'll tag History Debunked, just in case he might have a look. And I'll leave it up to any viewers. Somebody might be looking for something, or this might pop up and it might be of interest. Because the point is, further research required. Yes, the Indian Army, according to one book that I read on the topic, I think in the 1980s maybe, or sometime fairly recently, conducted a study because it was of interest to them to be able to possibly control the family size of their soldiers, because if they have more children, then they have to pay presumably more, it's more of a hassle or whatever. So they did an experiment and they confirmed the efficacy. But of course, all of this is anecdotal. I'm just a